Welcome to the Supplement Engineer Podcast. My name is Robert Janetsky. Today we are rejoined by the owner of Bullfrog Nutrition and A-Factors Nutrition, Mr. Paul Callahan. Welcome back, Paul. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back, Robert. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So 2019 has come to an end. 2020 has just started. We are, about 8 weeks or so, or actually not even that, maybe 6 weeks or so away from the Arnold, and you guys are based in there in Columbus. So how was the retail year for y'all since y'all are a brick and mortar store?
It was amazing. And I know that that's not heard everywhere, but I think that, it was amazing because we do a really good job at creating kind of a family atmosphere. And I think that's the key. So our Toledo store is usually the higher volume, and it still is. But the Columbus one is catching it pretty quickly. So we have a lot of support in both cities. And I think that was more of a challenge than we really thought it would be, obviously, to have two stores in two different cities that are 2 hours apart.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely brought up a lot of challenges that we somewhat expected, but we didn't expect really the level of difficulty that some of those challenges would face. So, it's done really well. And I think, just the same philosophy as I've always had and what I had before, just, the more positive relationships you can have, the better. And I think that's why my answer is that we're doing very, very well.
Do you find that there's a difference in clientele between one store, like the Toledo location, and the Columbus one? Like, there's certain demographics. Since Columbus is more of a college town, and I realize there's a university in Toledo too, but Columbus is where Ohio State University is. It's the big state school. Do you find like there's a different demographic of consumers there that flocks to that store versus the Toledo store?
Yeah, there really is. And to be honest with you, I'm still kind of getting a grasp on that.
Mm-hmm.
In Columbus, because a lot of times Gabby and I are split up, and a lot of times she's in Toledo and I'm in Columbus, and it's something I'm still trying to grasp fully, but I do know enough to be able to tell you that it's a little different. I think there's probably a younger demographic in Columbus,
Mm-hmm.
which I think you were kind of alluding to.
Yeah.
There's universities in both cities, but Columbus is definitely, obviously, Ohio State's the biggest out of those.
Right.
And we're actually right next to a university called Otterbein. It's a private one. It's about 2 miles away from the Columbus store. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say that it's definitely a younger demographic. And I think that has challenges to it because I think that, today's younger demographic is more likely to purchase online.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for retail, that definitely poses a lot of challenges. And in Toledo, we've done a little bit more with, I would say, different demographics. So like we're a big part of the Chamber of Commerce in Toledo, which I think is huge for any retail store, any local business. And we always participate in every event they have. We're very well established with, police stations, fire stations, military bases, things like that, because we give a discount for both stores and for online and for our brand.
Mm-hmm.
Across the board. So we've gotten very established up there with, I guess, what you could call a slightly older demographic.
Mm-hmm.
Versus here, we haven't quite hit all that just yet. But I think that some of those little things, once we do really, get those under control, I think that will change a little bit. But I think it's a very good point. I think what you're bringing up is definitely true. I think it's a younger demographic here. I think it's it's an educated demographic, maybe not more educated because they're both, lots of universities and colleges in both cities. But
right.
Columbus tends to be where we are. It's kind of northwest Columbus, and it tends to be a little bit of a higher end area.
Mm-hmm.
So, you get that clientele as well, which is great because we really focus on retention. Our business model is built on retention and kind of slowly gathering new people, but really focusing on keeping those people with us and part of our family.
Mm-hmm. Are there any, I guess, special tactics, advertising things that you've done? You mentioned getting into touch with the Chamber of Commerce in Toledo. Are there any kind of things from a retail owner position that you've kind of developed over the past year that's helped you continue success and growth since starting Bullfrog a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I think that obviously social media is a big part of it. In this industry, anything fitness is huge. But I think that's not necessarily anything different than what other people are doing. I think maybe attacking it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So we always focus on any kind of marketing or advertising is done through education.
Mm-hmm.
So with our social media, if you check out, our Instagram, our Facebook, it's based on how can I phrase this? Not what I would call more popularity type posts. So not just kind of a picture of the front of a product and saying, hey, this is a new brand. It's more focused on these are the ingredients, and we're more likely to take a picture of the back of the label as opposed to the front. These are the ingredients of the product. This is what these ingredients have been shown to possibly do. And, you know, things along the lines of, we talked about NutriBio right before we got on here. Hey, this is a brand that shows you a lot number on the bottom of the product you can plug in and see the test results for on their website. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
So we really I think what we do really well is we take advantage of what some of these brands are doing on their end, and we kind of take advantage of that on our end. So that's a good example would be NutriBio, you know, putting that lot number there, telling our customers, hey, you can rest assured when you buy this product that you know what's in it because you can literally check for yourself. You know, with EFX claiming the manufacturer on the label, you know, MFIT doing the same thing. Informed Choice Brands, you know, so a lot of our customers know these things and they know the back end of the industry. They know the manufacturing end, they know the quality end. And I think that, you know, one thing that as far as marketing, as far as reaching out to new people, I think that we take those things that are already being given to us by the manufacturer that we kind of consider a gift. And we say, hey, look at what we're carrying. You know, this is phenomenal. Come check this out. You know, come to our place and check this out. So I don't think it's anything groundbreaking, honestly, but you know, that's what we do as far as the social media aspect. And then as far as, you know, reaching out outside of social media, the events that we do are huge, you know, so bringing people into town. Columbus is kind of used to seeing the big names, you know, because of the Arnold every year. And the Arnold is an amazing event. I think it's phenomenal that it's in Columbus, and it's such a great thing for the Columbus economy and community, fitness community. The one, I guess, small downside that some people have, like myself, I'm a little claustrophobic. So it's pretty intense. There's tens of thousands of people that go. So, you know, with us having the events and bringing people into town and things like that, you can come and meet a lot of those people at our event, you know, in 30, 40 minutes, as opposed to, you know, 3, 4, 5 hours at the Arnold, or you could do both. I suggest doing both, but yeah, I mean, it's, those are the two big things, just the different avenue on social media, more education based, more quality of manufacturing base, and educating people on the back end. And then the events, I think that's what sets us apart as far as marketing goes.
Gotcha. As a retailer, with the ABH Pharma scandal that just broke within the past couple of weeks, and I know that y'all at Bullfrog don't mess around with any of the sketchy stuff. You don't do pro hormones. You're not doing SARMs or any of that, the weird shit that's going to get people rated by the FDA or DEA or anything like that. Do you see yourself and maybe other brick and mortar stores going towards forcing that? We're going to tell brands that want to come into the store, say, hey, unless you can show us third-party lab tests that your stuff contains what it is, we're not letting you in. We're not carrying your lines. Do you see the industry and like the retailers as a whole moving that way, or even something y'all would possibly adopt?
I surely hope so. Do I think it'll actually happen? No. I don't think so. I think that there is so much money to be made in this industry and so many different avenues that a lot of people take the quicker route, and they take the route of popularity, and they take the route of, like you said, SARMs and pro hormones, which are not safe for consumption and proven not safe for consumption, but people will sell them anyway. What I've found is I see people that know this and are aware of this in the retail space, fully aware of the consequences of somebody possibly taking this, especially for an extended period of time, yet still marketing it, and maybe changing their marketing to a different way, maybe rephrasing how they say it. So as opposed to saying SARMs and pro hormones, it's muscle builders or something like that, you know, but you know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
So I guess to answer your question, I would love to see that. I just realistically, the realist in me just doesn't think it'll happen. I think maybe just pushing the needle a little bit towards that happening. I think we could see that. I think that a small percentage extra on top of who already does that could do that in the next couple of years, especially with, you mentioned ABH Pharma. I mean, I wish that news would be more mainstream than it was. I feel like not enough people saw that.
Right.
And I feel like it will change some people's minds, but not nearly enough.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that it's ultimately going to come down, I guess, to consumer education, and that's going to fall more on retailers and brand owners and just various other consumer advocates pushing the information out there to the layperson that doesn't know as much about the supplement industry and some of the sketchy things that actually go on behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think it is. It does come down to consumer education, and I think that that's where the retail space should take some responsibility. I think that as a brick and mortar store, you should know what's in your store. I was just talking to a buddy of mine, maybe an hour ago, right before we got on this podcast about that, and I gave him an analogy. I said, "This is gonna give you a hint into something I'm clueless about, but I don't even know how to change the oil in my car."
Yeah.
And I feel like some of these people that are opening retail stores, it's basically like me going to open a body shop. Why would I do that? I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Why would I do it?
Right.
So that's, not to be rude or derogatory. It's just that I think, that responsibility should fall on the brick and mortar retail space, and it should fall on the, let's say, social media influencer space as well. And the brands, the brands that you see brands that are separating themselves now, I think, with putting out the education, like NutriBio is really hammering home the manufacturing quality.
Mm-hmm.
EFX is really hammering home manufacturing. So there's brands out there that now have switched from their marketing tool from, hey, here's a real cool, catchy front label of a product to, no, here's our manufacturing facility. And I think that those are brands that are ahead of the curve. So I think that, obviously partial responsibility is on the consumer. And I think a lot of consumers are taking that, at least in our stores.
Mm-hmm.
We see a higher influx of people coming in that are asking very different questions than I think even 3 to 5 years ago in a retail store.
Yeah.
They're asking specifically, where are these products made? Do you have a test result for these? And a lot of the products we do, a lot of products we know where they come from, and if we don't, we ask.
Mm-hmm.
So partial responsibility on the consumer, but I think a lot of that does stem originally from the retail owner and also from the brand owners and what the brands do for their marketing.
What's the average age of the consumers that are coming in asking those type of questions? Is it younger demographic, middle-aged, older? I'm curious where the education is in relation to age level.
I think it's a lot of younger and middle-aged. It'd be hard for me to pinpoint where the majority is in there, but I would say 25 to 40 is probably the age group there that's doing that. And people, I think the reasoning behind that is it's probably, if you're looking at that 25 to 40 range, it's probably people that have been taking supplements for a little while.
Right.
That have, maybe they've been in and out of it a few times, but the course of, 5, 10, 15 years, maybe taking some supplements here and there or regularly, that's how the industry is kind of swaying just a little bit. So maybe they're seeing that different kind of marketing, or really with us, it's kind of like I've referenced a few times the family that we create, and a lot of times with word of mouth being a big part of what we do as well. A lot of our customers end up being extremely educated on the ins and outs of the industry and the back end of the industry before they even get their products. That they're then going out and telling their friends and family, hey, that product you're taking, maybe you shouldn't be taking it, and here's the reason why. And I think that's where our consumers are a lot different than consumers from a lot of other places, is they can actually tell you, as opposed to just saying, hey, I don't think that's the best brand. They're able to say, hey, I don't think that's the best brand, and then here's the reasoning behind that.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I think I would say 25 to 40.
Okay, perfect. Over the past year, have any brands just within your store, have you seen any kind of brands, I guess, rise to the top? I'm not even sure if you can give out that kind of information as a retail store, given out which brands are kind of pulling ahead of the other ones. But were there any kind of surprises that you saw from the consumer side that, hey, we actually had to increase our orders of this because these were just selling that much more?
Oh, we're fully transparent. I don't care to tell. Cutler, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I had a smaller brand kind of contact me, and they're professional about it. They said, what can we do to gain more traction in your store? And I think that's a very professional way to word that question, as opposed to I'm sorry, we're gonna take I'll call you. I forgot to tell you I was doing this. Yeah, you're good. You're good. Sorry about that, Robert.
Okay.
I think that's a very professional way to approach a store. Phrasing the question, how can I do more for you, or how can I gain more traction in your store, as opposed to, let me try to sell you my products, or some kind of cold call or something like that. But point being, I had a smaller brand approach me and say, how can I get more traction in your store? And my point was, show up, come to the store, send people in.
Yeah.
You're local, so send some people into the store, create a demand for your product, and then I'll fulfill the demand. It's pretty basic economics. But the reason that I take that route is, Jay Cutler's been to, I believe, 5 events now as of March for our stores. So Jay Cutler has physically walked through my door 5 times, and he's 4-time Mr. Olympia, and he lives in Vegas.
Right.
So if Jay Cutler has physically walked through my door more times than you have, why would I give you shelf space that he could have?
Exactly.
That's just kind of, that's a very basic way of looking at it. But at the end of the day, I think, we're seeing as a whole that brick and mortar retail space for the supplement industry is going through what Mark Lobliner and I talked about this for a long time, a couple months ago on the phone, and he called it a filtering phase, where there's a lot of stores around right now.
Right.
There's a lot of people there's some people doing really well, and there's some people really suffering. And he's calling it, for the next, what he said, 5 years, kind of a filtering out stage, to where some people are going to last, some people aren't. And then there's going to be, what I think is probably an influx of going back to stores, because people are looking at quality and they want to know about their products. So, retail stores have to find a way to survive, and they have to find a way to work with brands that are going to work with them, because every brand wants space on your shelves. But what it comes down to at the end of the day is, what are they going to do for you? So with Jay doing so much for us on social media and the events and things like that, and just being an overall phenomenal human being, I think that's a cool thing too, is, outside of business, he's just a great guy. So Cutler has gained a ton of traction with us. MFit has gained a lot with us for the same thing, same reason. Guy's probably come to 8 events. We probably had 8 events total, and he's been at all 8 of them, or 8 of 9, between the 2 stores. But same thing, he lives in New Jersey. He's a massive competitor. He's a huge fitness influencer. If he has walked through my doors more times than you have, why do I give you shelf space? And obviously their quality as well. Anyone that's going to put their manufacturer on every single product, I look at that as full transparency, and I look at that as we're stamping our product for approval of manufacturing.
Agreed.
So those MTS for sure. Same thing. It's a trend. Mark has done a lot for us. He actually came out to a local show that we were a part of this past year, and did a lot for the city of Toledo, and just kind of, went out to dinner with our people, and, posed for a show, got on stage for the first time in, I think, 15 years. So
that's awesome.
That was cool. And then what he's affiliated with too, Ambrosia, I like what they're doing over there with him and Mike. BMI, definitely Dynamic Evolution, who we did that collab with,
right?
For the workout. So they're a really growing brand too. I mean, he's in a lot of countries at this point, and then he's starting to spread across the U.S. too. With the patented ingredients that he's using in his products, and just dosing things well. Consumers have, like you've seen probably with the supplements, they just have really good positive feedback on the products.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that those 5 or 6 examples, definitely Granite as well, because John Meadows is a local guy here in Ohio.
Yeah, and he's awesome. John's just awesome. So,
yeah, just a great, like I said about Jay, just great end guy. Just great overall people that really just do so much for our businesses. I mean, it's crazy to really just call all those guys friends at this point. I mean, they're business partners, but they're all friends, and they're friends with a bunch of our family, a bunch of our customers too.
Yeah,
which
very
is
cool.
Which is great. Those are all very high quality brands that I'd recommend for any retailer watching this. I'd recommend all those brands.
Well, since you brought up John, Granite Supplements went through a bit of a rebrand over the past year and a half or so. Have you noticed much of a shift in the way consumers were receiving the product labels and the new formulas, given what it used to look like versus the newer iterations?
Yes, and I really like the new label. If you haven't seen it, the protein.
Yeah,
The
yeah, so
protein looks is very catchy, and it's the bag, so it's an eco-friendly thing, and it's also a great product. I mean, that's
hmm
that's what matters. So 5 blend, so you got a bunch of different amino acid content in there, and then it's lean for a 5 blend. It's only like a gram and a half of fat, a gram and a half gram of sugar.
hmm
So I mean, it's a very very lean protein for being a 5 blend. Tastes amazing, and your point would be the labels, and I think they have improved. I think that they had to go through a couple stages there where they were kind of playing with things and
Right.
before they really found their niche, and I think they found that now. And people know that when you're looking at a Granite product, you're going to pay a premium price for a premium product.
hmm
So I think that they have, especially in the retail space, I think that they have a specific type of demographic that
Right.
they're targeting, and I think they do a really good job at targeting that.
hmm
Um, and John is huge on support. So just last year in 2019, um, trips that I went on personally with John, I know there were 3 or 4. We went to Nut Bash in Virginia for Doug Miller.
hmm
So John was there to support that, which is great. He went to Natural Body for Steve
Right.
in the Bronx or
hmm
Queens. I'm sorry. Um, so that was great. He went to we went to Rexius out in Nebraska for a seminar, which was really neat. Tim's a great
Cool.
guy.
hmm
So when you have somebody that's that big, that's putting in the time, just like I said before, that's putting in the time and the effort, um, consumers are going to look for that product. So they go from, coming in the store and being maybe open to a product like that versus, coming in the store and buying that because
Right.
he's been there, he's given a seminar, he's helped. And I think that's another thing that really helped Granite that John and I have had some conversations about. Um, as opposed to focusing so much on DTC sales with discount codes and athletes and affiliates and things. What you've kind of seen is John take a little more of the reins.
hmm
So a lot of the advertising and a lot of the education and the posts and things are now John, which
Right.
I think is great. I think that's the best route he could go.
hmm
So he's had some great people affiliated with the brand in the past, but I think that consumers like to see, especially with someone that well educated and has been around for that long. I think the consumer likes to see the owner, take the reins and say, "Hey, this is my brand. I made this protein, and this is why I made this protein. This is why I formulated it like this for you guys." I think that's a big reason why the protein has a lot of traction right now, is because
hmm
he came out and said, "Hey, I formulated this, and this is why," and that means a lot to the consumer.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. Even as, I mean, NutriBio, you brought up NutriBio earlier, and we've seen Mark Glazier just come and step out into the spotlight a little bit more, be a little bit more vocal, especially about all the manufacturing stuff lately with the ABH Pharma gate. But, even as little as 4 or 5 years ago, these guys, these brand owners, didn't want to be in the spotlight. They weren't the ones out there speaking. The only one I can think of was maybe Mark Lobliner for Tiger Fitness and MTS was out there in front saying, hey, these are my
Yep.
products. This is why I think they're great. This is why you should try them. But outside of that, it's always been athletes, or we would just put a brand up there. And it's
Mhm.
it's it's been a slow transition to where the brand owners, and I think a lot of that is, I guess, social media has part to do with it. Part of it is the younger consumers these days want to know where their products are made, who's making them, what's the actual story behind the brand. They want more than just a product. They want a whole story, and to kind of, I guess, not latch onto a cause, but you understand what I'm kind of saying, that they want to be,
Absolutely.
enveloped
Yeah.
in a story and be a part of that journey and growth.
Yeah, I think that everyone wants to be a part of something. I think that's a big point to make here. Just feeling like you're a part of a brand is huge. I remember just, before I was really in the industry as a teenager, wanting to feel that way.
Yeah.
But it also plays into, a couple, like we talked about before, with just more transparency. I think the owner come out and saying, "This is my product, this is my brand, I stamp it," is part of that whole shift toward more transparency. I
Right.
think that's a really big key part to that.
hmm Uh, with the stores, I'm going to bounce back for a second. We were talking about Toledo versus Columbus earlier. As you're getting different products in there for the stores or responding, do you stock different things between the two stores? Is that a a real headache to try to balance product inventory between the two stores? Because obviously, if you run out of something somewhere and you've got it in the other store, you can just hot shot it over to the other location real quick. But as the demographics of the consumers shift, and as you start to understand which store, which wants what, how do you go about determining how to stock products? And is that become more and more of a headache than, and we'll just keep it the same between the two stores regardless?
It pretty much is the same. There's not really. I'm trying to think of even small examples. There's not even really small examples of one store having something the other one doesn't. It's pretty much the same. Now there are products that move a little faster in one place versus the other, because if you get let's say a key, like in Toledo, our part timer Jordan, he's late 20s. He's doing really well as a bodybuilder. He's moving up, toward the professional ranks ish, and he's doing a great job. And he likes to get behind, some brands that he takes, and he has basically the same reasons we do. Where's it made? Is it an informed choice? Who's the owner? Let me talk to the owner, kind of thing. Yeah. And what we find is, like, when someone like that gets behind a product in a demographic in a specific area, and then all his friends or his clients or things like that want to come in, then you see, some brands moving a little more in one versus the other. But as far as the selection, it's almost identical between the two stores. The only differences are some stock a little bit better in one place versus the other. And as far as like getting it back and forth, it's funny you bring that up, because so Gabby, my girlfriend that I own the business with, she goes to OSU. So she's usually in the Toledo store. Okay. But she happens to be at Ohio State, which we referenced earlier, right. 2 days a week. So that plays into a lot of convenience.
That's true.
So yeah, she's able, multiple times a week to take something from here and take it up there, or vice versa. Yeah. And the funny thing about it is she's the one that remembers to do that, and I'm the forgetful one. So a lot of times, if I'm not setting something in my calendar, I don't remember it. And she actually made me this nice big monitor right here.
Whoa!
With the computer and everything, TV, and it barely gets used. So she set it up to where I've got a calendar in there. I've got all kinds of things I can see on a daily basis. And a lot of times I just get so caught up, mainly on my phone, talking to brand owners, talking to reps, customers. I just get so caught up that I forget things like that. But she's very, very good at, the day in, day out reminder kind of things like that. So, hey, we need 2 of this product in this location. We need 2 of this product in this location. I'm going to bring it down. And then she'll even we'll help each other out and kind of put the product in the person's car the night before if we got to wake up early and go to the store. So it's very much a team effort. And there's even been a couple times I can recall where, again, referencing Jordan, he actually had to meet me halfway because we were so low on certain things from one place and had so much at the other one. And he's so great and so bought into what we're doing that he drove an hour just to stock up his car and drive back. So that's it would be much easier. Hypothetically, it'd be a lot easier if the stores were closer, but I kind of like it. I mean, I like, as you alluded to earlier, the different demographics in the different cities and just the different people in the different cities and just the different fitness community. I think that for as much as you could say it would be more convenient, hypothetically, if they were, let's say, 15 minutes away from each other, I think there's also a point to be made where we've touched 2 fitness communities as opposed to one. Right. So yes, it's harder. Yes, it's much more of a challenge every day, every week, every month. But there's a fitness community up there and there's a fitness community here, and we're doing a really good job at touching both. So I think that I try to look at it in a positive way, and I think that's a very positive way to look at it.
Yeah, and I would see at a point if the 2 locations are too close, and it seems like they'd almost be cannibalizing themselves. And I mean, ultimately, you'd still be making profits at both stores from the customer because the same customer would be going to Bullfrog regardless in this ideal setting. But by expanding your reach and being just far away enough to where you're in that city, you've got that 2-hour buffer between each city, Toledo and Columbus. You're able to touch those 2 different communities, like you said. So I think, as long as the community around you is supporting the store, I think it's a smarter play.
And the funny thing we found too is a lot of people from Toledo end up moving to Columbus. So, it's, I guess, a slightly better. I mean, the weather's usually a little bit better here because they're not by the lakes. A couple hours south. Toledo's a great city. Columbus is a great city, but it's so funny. We have at least a dozen examples I can think of, just in the time we've had the stores of,
Yeah.
Regular clientele that go into the Toledo store that end up moving to Columbus and then come here. And your point too of being kind of just far enough away. A lot of people have friends or relatives or things like that, and close to one versus the other, and they'll post about it. Well, my friend in Columbus was posting about you guys, and they're all the way up in Sylvania. So there's a lot of positives to it. For all the challenges that come with it, there's always a lot of positives too.
Yeah. As a retailer, sometimes we see for brands to gain traction, they'll do limited edition flavors. They'll do, or they'll go exclusive into a brand or anything like that. Do you think that's something more brick and mortars are going to do? Because obviously there's lines that are exclusive to bodybuilding.com. There's lines that are exclusive to GNC, and I know Natural Body did that exclusive flavor release with NutraBio, and I think a couple of others when they had
That's so funny.
The block party.
Yeah.
And y'all did the thing with Dynamic Evolution. Do you see that trend? Do y'all notice a significant increase in traffic, and does that, significantly benefit the store in your outreach, in your opinion?
I think it does. And I think Steve would tell you the same thing. That was kind of, I guess, my inspiration for wanting to do that. Seeing Steve, and obviously he's massively successful, and everyone has a big amount of respect for him in the industry. He's a great guy. To see his face on a product is pretty funny, at least in my opinion. But yeah, I think he was kind of a big inspiration for us wanting to do that. And I think that, that's something that a lot of retailers can do and learn from is, if you see another retailer that's massively successful and they are where you want to be, you can take plays out of their playbook. I mean, and that's something that I think we do really well. So to answer your question, I think it would be a smart thing to do for stores to do that. I don't think that everybody will, because I think that it's kind of scary, to be honest with you. It's a little bit of a jump, because you have to commit to usually X amount of units, and that's not a small number. And you have to commit to really investing a good chunk of money into it and time. So it was a challenge to meet that, which we've done very well with. It was a challenge to meet that, and then keep everything else in stock that people want on top of paying for this. But I think it's done incredible things for the store. I think that you see people in different states all over the place, posting the Bullfrog Edition, and originally it was Brad's idea, and it's something that I'm glad I went with. And he's had people from Australia, he's had people from Lebanon, he's had people from other countries that actually see the product and want to sell it, which is amazing. And one of those retailers, I believe, wanted to sell it just for the flavor profile, but one of them actually specifically said, "Can I sell the Bullfrog Edition?" Which I thought was just amazing.
That's pretty awesome. Well, and the name's cool too, or you call it Bullfrog Edition or Frog Juice or something like that. Frog's Blood. Call it something kind of cool, and it gets everybody's attention or their ears perked up.
Yeah, I think it's done wonders for us. I think it's huge especially with our logo. I think they did a great job with the labeling of the product, putting our logo right on the front, right where you can see it. So really, anybody that's taken any kind of picture of the product is going to see the branding on there.
Right.
So I owe it all to a lot of it's a dynamic for just having that idea and then allowing us to execute that idea and go through with it. And it's something that we really weren't sure if we were going to do more than one run of, but the first couple weeks of us having it, we sold about half of what we had, which is a significant amount.
Wow.
So we went through hundreds of units in a couple weeks to where, there's already going to be another run coming real soon. So it's a great thing. And I think that you're going to see, at least for us, there's more on the way. So we actually have, I don't think they mind if I said this. We actually have a specific form of carbolin, a specific flavor coming out with the nutrition corners. So Doug and Carl down in Virginia and those guys. I have a lot of respect for what they do down there and how they run their business. And it's cool to collab with them. So what you'll see is it's actually a specific carbolin flavor. It's called Cosmic Candy, and it'll be out in the next, I think in the next week or two. We'll have it in hand, and it is a much more limited run with this one. as opposed to what we did with Dynamic. There's probably going to be a pre-sale and it'll probably be gone real soon. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's basically Carbolin in a different flavor without the colors and dyes. And it's something that Carl actually had the idea for because he has a lot of high school and college athletes that go into nutrition corners and they look for, they're drinking Gatorade. They're
Right.
drinking Gatorade in the middle of their game or practice or training.
Mm-hmm.
And, he wants a better way for them to get the carbohydrates they need in a more effective way that is healthier for them and fits their goals. So,
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I was alluding to. I have a lot of respect for those guys and what they do because at the end of the day, yes, they're doing well and they're profiting, but I think at the end of the day, just like us, Carl wanting to make that product specifically for his high school and college customers shows that he has, the customer's interest and health at heart before everything else.
Yeah, I would agree.
So that's a cool product we'll have, and it's going to have, it'll look just like a normal 2-pound Carbolin, but it'll have Bullfrog Nutrition Corners logos on the back with the websites listed.
Sweet.
So it'll be pretty neat, and there's probably more to come from that too. There's probably going to be another collaboration here real soon.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
And I was curious where the I guess the idea or the backing from these collaborations or these tag teams come from, because obviously as a store you're signing up to sell a certain amount of units. I guess you're either putting in a guarantee or you might even be putting in some kind of cash backing to help them run the product. Because if a brand is going to do an exclusive flavor release, then they're narrowing their sales points to one thing. So, and they have to also run a special product flavor, come up with labels and product and all that. So I've always wondered how those things are orchestrated, whether the brand fronts it all and then that they'll get a piece of the sales from the sales of that, or the brand owners or the retail owners go in with the brands and help them split the product costs, and that way it's a little bit more even partnership going into it. So I always wonder how these little things work behind the scenes, and I don't think it's something the consumers ever think about.
Yeah, it's not. And I, to give you some insight into it, it depends on the relationship, really.
Right.
So like everything, I hit on it a bunch last time we were on the podcast that, positive relationships mean everything in this industry. And that's, with this collaboration, these multiple collaborations, that's proving true. So specifically with Dynamic and Bullfrog, it's to the point where it's kind of, we've got a lot of it paid off. But, the brand was able to actually front what was going on. And then we've paid off the majority of that as time has gone on. So we have such a positive relationship and we believe in each other and what, each other is doing so intensely that we are able to do things like that.
Yeah.
With the Carbolin, it's, All American Pharmaceutical, they go through quite a bit of testing and there's a lot of lead time that goes into making a product there, which is a whole other topic in itself. We could cover that. That'd be kind of neat. But it's much more, I guess you could say, official. It's much more of a, 25 or 50% down up front needs to be met before production occurs because we're making another label. And then the other 50 to 75% split down the middle between the two stores is due at, 30%, or let's say 30 days after you get it, so it very much depends on the relationship. So even with All American, that's not a typical pay schedule. That's very, very much you're kind of an insider of our company pay schedule. That's not typical at all. But like I said, you're paying for basically the top quality you can possibly get at that point. And with Dynamic, it's also top quality. It's just that, Brad's able to do things like that. So
yeah, you have to tailor the arrangements and the organization to the brand and the relationship and the way it is, because it's the same. On my end, when I'm working with a brand, sometimes I'll say, all right, if we're going to do something, then I need XYZ up front, or hey, I've known you long enough, I'm willing to do these tasks, and then you can pay me on the back end. It depends on the relationship, how well you know the person, what you've kind of gone through with them over the years. It's just like any relationship in life. You've got family members and friends that you would, for lack of a better word, be okay lending them a line of credit, where other people you'd tap the brakes before you ever kind of jumped into something like that with them.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty much how it works. I mean, and you got to be careful too, because like you said, there's for as much positive as there is, there's also some times where I'm sure people have been burned and you could get burned, and you have to really know who you're working with. And I think we've done a good job. The two collaborations the one we have and the one that's in production, we did a very, very good job selecting those individuals. And the one that I'm trying to work on now is the same story. It's someone I respect a lot and have a lot of trust in. That something like that is fine with me.
With Carbolin, that's one of the very popular intra or peri-workout carbohydrates. Highly branched cyclic dextrin or cluster dextrin is another one. Carb 10 is one of the ones that's kind of working its way up into becoming more known within the industry. Obviously you have a lot of experience with Carbolin, I'm sure, given that the guys at EFX and everything. Do you have a preference? Do you notice much of a difference between cluster dextrin versus Carbolin in your own workouts or training, or what people that you've trained or worked with have?
Yeah, I do prefer Carbolin. I like carbohydrates as a space for intra-workout as a whole. I like that. I think that a lot of data and a lot of backing supports carbohydrates regardless of the sourcing of it with an amino acid during your training is probably the best way you can go for most people. I mean, everybody's different, but for most people that's probably your best route. I think that the Carbolin preference for me it's a couple different things. It's knowing where the product comes from first and foremost. So knowing that it's all American pharmaceutical, knowing that it's patented ingredient at that facility.
Right.
And then Carbolin with me tends to sit very easy in my stomach. So it is a complex potato, rice, corn derived carbohydrate. It's a homopolysaccharide carbohydrate. It should take a lot longer to break down than it does because it has it's basically bypassing the stomach and entering the bloodstream like a glucose essentially. So it's breaking down like a candy, like a lot of people eat intra workout. So to me, again, everybody's different, so people are gonna have different preferences. But to me, it sits very easy with me. It's light, no GI issues at all. Whereas cluster dextrin, I don't have very much as far as GI goes with that, but it's just a little bit more uncomfortable for me. I like Carb 10, the P-derived carbohydrate. I like that a lot. And I know that there's a lot of brands like MFIT, for example, that we carry that are using that now. Yeah. And I think Mark too, soon.
Yeah, Tiger Fitness. Well, they've got I think they have a bulk. They used to sell a whole bulk tub of it. I remember when that came out. I want to say like 2016, 2017-ish time.
So there are a couple examples. Like for example, Recovery Factor from Granite we talked about earlier. It's 14 grams. So that dextrin sits fine with me. Right. Because it's a smaller dose. So I think that's enough to where you are getting benefit. You are going to have glycogen replenishment. You are going to have nutrient driving capability at 14 grams. And maybe it has to do with, having the EAAs in there, the ashwagandha, things like that. But for example, that product sits with me very, very well. And I really like that product, because you're fitting multiple products into one essentially. Right. I like that one almost as much as Carbolin. I'm a big Carbolin advocate. But yeah, I think just overall, if you have a good carbohydrate source, and really all three that we're talking about are good sources, especially depending on the individual, it's going to be different. But all three that we're talking about are good sources. If you have one of those along with, your amino acid preference of choice, whether it be BCA or a full EAA, you're good to go intra-workout. I think that's a phenomenal intra-workout combination.
Sure. Do a lot of consumers, and I know your thoughts around and training and the importance of carbohydrates around that, do you find that consumers are still gravitating more towards only using like BCAAs intra, or have you, and through some of the store's outreach and education, kind of enlighten them as to the importance or the the benefits that carbohydrates before or during training would have?
Yeah, I think that some people are kind of hesitant with it. But I think that once people try it, I think it's one of those anecdotal things. I think that once you try it, and you realize that you get a better workout with it, it's something that people see the importance of. I think that I had a talk about Carbolin with a buddy of mine who's a big time coach in Texas. He's got clients all over the world, and the way he phrased it was, with Carbolin, if I get a 10% better workout or any carbohydrate, if I get a 10% better workout for basically $1 per serving, it's worth it every day, So, I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's a good way to look at it. And I tell a lot of consumers that too. So I tell a lot of consumers that, if you're going to get that 10% edge and you're going to get glycogen replenishment, nutrient driving capability for $1.25 per serving ish,
Hmm.
I think it's well worth it. And it's sometimes it is a little more challenging to get them to, I guess kind of accept that. But like I said, I think it's one of those anecdotal things that you try it for a couple weeks and you realize better recovery, you realize better training sessions, and then it's something you keep as a staple. I think that's a good point to make with that intra workout category as well. It becomes a staple, I think, for a lot of people.
Hmm.
Um, that's one thing I've noticed, that kind of like protein. Pre-workouts, people are so back and forth, and everyone wants to try something different, and
Yep.
you rarely find someone loyal to a pre-workout. Our space is a little different. I think we have a little more loyalty with it because of how we explain it. But as a whole, I think the consumer space looks at, protein as something they kind of stick with. They have their preference,
Yeah.
isolate versus blend, and they kind of stick with that. I think intra workout is another good example of that, where you try something, you see it works, and then it becomes a staple. And they just, before they know it, they're just every month because they see the benefit.
Yeah. That's what I find interesting. I mean, there's been numerous studies showing that carbohydrates, either before, during, or after training session, will improve performance, recovery, muscle growth, all of that good stuff. And as simple and as, I guess, well proven as carbohydrate supplementation is, it still seems like it's really feared by the average lifter, because the whole mantra that carbs will make you fatter, it stops fat loss and all of that. Yet they're willing to go and spend $30, $50, $60, $75 on these quote unquote natural anabolics, or these natural muscle builder ingredients, which may have one or two studies. And I'm not talking about creatine or, betaine. I'm talking like some of these other little plant extracts or these plant steroids that they put in
Yep.
the products.
Yep.
I find that amazing, where it's something as simple as a basic carbohydrate would have, significantly bigger impacts than some kind of phytoecdysteroid would.
Right. I agree with you 100%. And I think one thing that helps um, that helps people come to the realization of, why carbohydrates are good during training is a lot of it's convenience too. So I think a lot of people understand that, carbohydrates are basically the body's fuel, and you need it for a lot of different things. Like we've said before, replenishing glycogen, driving nutrients, a lot of different things,
Right.
just good natural energy. I think they understand that. I think sometimes it's just a matter of, it being in a product and using that word, so if you use it as more of a convenience and you say, well, being a potato, rice, corn carbohydrate, this is much more convenient and much easier, and actually probably cheaper than buying potato, rice, and corn, putting it in Tupperware, cooking it up, taking it to the gym, start eating in the middle of your training session. I mean, so a lot of times I think what helps with, moving those kind of products for retailers would be obviously explaining the benefit of it and explaining, how it will help the consumer, but also the sheer convenience of it is also huge for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think even people that are, because they're guys that are looking to put on size, if they're anything like me, they struggle with it, because I'm never hungry and I don't really tend to crave carby, starchy foods like potatoes, bread, rice, pasta, all of that kind of stuff. I know that sounds weird, but having something like that which digests quickly, it won't fill you up, won't leave you feeling bloated. I think that's kind of an untalked about or non-discussed niche for where carb supplements could be positioned.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that the convenience idea, and then what you said, especially after I train, a lot of times I don't feel like I want to go eat something heavy.
Right.
I know a lot of people that do, and I'm also that way before. So I don't like a whole lot of food intake peri-workout.
Yeah.
Where I know the benefit of it, and I know the benefit of having those macronutrients and amino acids and things.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the significance of the role that it plays. But a lot of times I don't like getting it from heavy foods, like you're saying. So
Right.
the convenience factor of all this, I think, is a massive selling point.
Yeah. Since we're on the topic of supplements, has anything changed drastically in your supplement regimen since we last spoke?
Yeah, actually. So I'm one of those people that I kind of yo-yo back and forth between I'll diet really, really well for 2 months, and then I'll take 2 months off, and I'm like, dad bod kind of thing. So I mean, I'll say this, but I know people are gonna guys are gonna make fun of me if he sees this. It's I'm cutting right now, technically,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like I'm trying to get ready for looking like I halfway fit in at the Arnold with these massive, ridiculous looking guys, that just look insanely just amazing,
Yep.
and I'm trying to look like I at least belong there with a polo on, so that's what I'm shooting for right now. So with that being said, obviously mainly it's diet that changes, but along with the diet and the training, the supplement regimen changes, and I look for things like a staple in my program right now is Shred from Core.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a big advocate, as you know, of the non-stem, low-stem pre-workout category, non-stem, low-stem fat burning category.
Right.
And I think that Core does an amazing job with Shred. I think that the last time we spoke, that was a relatively new product. It hasn't been around too long. They still have just the one flavor, but I think with the acetyl L-carnitine and the thermogenic enhancement in there,
Mm-hmm.
I really, really like that combination, especially if I can do it, multiple times throughout the day with how it's dosed. And I actually I like the newer flavors that are coming out using like the GBB or the grains of paradise or cayenne as ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
I like the kind of spice kick that a lot of those have, including Shred or like a carnitine heat from BMI,
yep.
or something like that. So that's a new staple in there. I do have Lyzyme in there right now from EFX, which I like as an ingredient. It's a little on the stim side for me, but that's usually pretty much the only caffeine I'm going to intake on a daily basis unless I'm traveling.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a staple in there right now. And then definitely our new Loaded has been a positive staple in there.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as everything else is pretty much the same. I try to focus on good protein intake at night. I usually do Machine Whey or like a Patriots Whey, one of those two.
Yeah.
The little bit slower release kind of blend type protein that keeps me a little full, so I'm not going to the fridge 6 times in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So that's a staple. I'm trying to think of what else.
What is your favorite flavor of MTS? Since you have MTS, what's your favorite flavor?
That is such a hard question. Oh, boy.
I like the peanut butter cookies and cream. I think that's my all-time favorite.
I think that's their number one too. Which it's really, really hard to not pick that one because it's just so amazing.
Yeah.
I like that one, but I also really like the black raspberry chocolate chip one.
I have not tried that one. I haven't tried that one.
I think it's only a few months old.
Yeah.
That one's really, really good. I think I'd have to go with one of those two. I'd have to go with one of those. But Mark is a flavor genius, and everyone in the industry knows that. So, I think that if they have, I don't know how many flavors they have. If they have hypothetically 14 flavors, all 14 are amazing.
Yeah.
So I don't even like red velvet cake, and I'll drink their red velvet protein. So it's just a good product, and I think that I have a lot of respect for Mark because I don't know if I told you this story last time. It might have happened since. Mark is somebody that is just so he's non-settling when it comes to quality. He just does not compromise, and that's something that I think a lot of people, they see him say it, but they might not see any like real life practical type of example of it.
Right.
So something I show a lot of my customers is there was a time where I had a regular customer of ours in Toledo, texting me about a protein that they had consumed, and they weren't happy with it. And it's a protein that I knew I didn't necessarily agree with the quality of, but I try to temper myself, and I try to, instead of, kind of going at the individual and saying, you know what, that's not a quality product. I used to do that a lot. I've tempered myself now. Now I look for a more practical example of something to actually provide the individual with. So what I did was I texted Mark, I think it was 10 o'clock at night one night. So it would have been like 9 o'clock his time. And I said, hey, I've got this customer. I took a screenshot of the product, and I took a screenshot of the text and basically the unhappy result that the customer had. And I said, it's a blended protein. And here's what they had, and they're unhappy with it because of XYZ. And I'm trying to make a point to them that, we carry only top-notch quality products that we stand behind the quality manufacturing of.
Right.
And within 30 seconds, he had sent me, I think it was 3 texts of, free of heavy metals, free of amino spiking, the amino spiking test, C of A with manufacturer on the top of it, that I literally just forwarded right over to the customer. And I said, this is the protein I stand behind, and this is directly from the owner. And they were like, okay. And they've been buying it ever since, so it's just, when I talk about MTS, it's kind of the same thing with, like Cutler or MFit or something. The amount of support that someone like that gives, being the owner, is just phenomenal. And it's so big to the customer to see something like that they stick with it, and it's good. It's better for them.
Yeah, I'm sure the outright bars are sold in your store, and I think we may have touched on this last time we discussed it. Do those move pretty well in the stores compared to the other protein bars out on the market?
The funny thing, we really only carry outright. We carry the PE Science bars too, because I personally like the texture, especially the chocolate peanut butter one. I like that product a lot. But we pretty much, as far as like the snack category goes, we're kind of an anomaly. Just like everything else, really. Outright, PE Science, and then the beef sticks from America. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But yes, the outright bars absolutely just fly. It's really funny to me because I joke with some of our some of our family members that just kind of like come in and hang out and are always at the store, and I tell them, I say, I ordered 40 boxes 3 days ago for this one location, and I don't even know how many flavors they have, like 8 or 9. Yeah. I got all the flavors but the one that 3 people came in for today. I'm like, all 40 of those boxes, or like 38 of them, are gone in 4 days. And then somebody comes in for that one flavor. 3 people come in for that one flavor in like a 3-hour span that I didn't get. And I'm like, I don't even know how to stay ahead of it. So I guess it's a great problem to have.
Yeah.
But they move so fast. The Columbus store does really well with them. I would say a percentage of sales of the outright compared to overall percentage of sales in Columbus, it's very solid. Toledo, I can't get ahead of the stock. I can't order enough to literally keep on the shelf. And we have basically it's a stand up that has 4 shelves on it, and it's probably, it could, for a normal store, it could hold probably 6 different types of bars, with different flavors and things like that. Right. A lot of times we have the entire thing, all 4 shelves filled with just outright, and that's how fast it moves. And it's always the funny thing too. Another funny thing, everyone likes different flavors at different times, so I've kind of found that out that, I'll have a massive rush on the white chocolate cranberry one, and then I'll have like 8 boxes sitting there the next week of white chocolate cranberry, and I'll be completely out of s'mores and cookies and cream. I'm like, I thought I got ahead of this for you guys, and now you're switching over. So I need to get to the point where I'm ordering like 100 boxes at a time. So they do an amazing job. I'm glad that we're talking about a product moving that well, being the outright bar, because it's just such a high quality bar that I'm perfectly fine with ordering as much as we need.
Yeah. With the whey proteins, do you find, and designer flavors have become a huge trend within the past year or two in the industry. So we're not getting just the same old chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, cookies and cream thing, like the Mount Rushmore of what protein flavors used to be. Now we're getting bourbon, banana, nut bread, and black velvet, red cherry, vanilla, and all these other kind of things. Do those sell as well from where you're positioned at in Bullfrog, or is it still like the standards people want, and they'll dabble with the exotics every now and then?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's still, a lot of it is still maybe just a step above the standard. So like chocolate peanut butter is a huge seller for us in pretty much everything. So BMI, Isoflex, Dimetized ISO 100. The chocolate peanut butters are a huge staple. Really anything MTS. MTS is the outlier for whey because all the flavors sell.
Right.
But as a whole, I think a lot of people tend to go back to the general scope of the 4 or 5 originals and maybe just one little step above for like a chocolate peanut butter or a cookies and cream. Those still do the majority of the sales, whereas we carry a lot of those exotic ones. But I think it's like what you said. They'll step out of their comfort zone for a couple tubs and then they'll kind of go back to what they like. I think that the cereal ones are huge. So Total ISO Cutler. I mean, the 2 cereal flavors are both amazing.
Yeah.
And then with Patriots Way, so we have an isolate and we have a blend that are doing the cereal theme. And I think that if there is one kind of exotic trend that's caught on from a protein flavoring standpoint with us, it's the cereal route that people like.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when Patriots Way first broke out on the scene. It was delicious, and having all the inclusions in there was really, really something.
Yeah. It's and now they have supersize. I think I think I'll have it tomorrow. But it's Fruity Pebbles that's in the product.
Oh, in the new mass gainer that they just released.
Yeah,
Very
and
cool.
I tried it, and it's absolutely, it's amazing. It tastes like if you had a bowl of fruity Pebbles and you kind of like let it sit for 5 minutes and then it's turned into like a liquidish. That's what it tastes like. It's just amazing.
Very cool.
So yeah, those do really, really well, and even BMI, they have that Charms flavor with the isolate, the marshmallow Charms, that does really well. So I think that anything that has those little inclusions, like you said, those little bits of whatever the taste is, I think those always go over really, really well.
Yeah, cool. So looking out at the rest of 2020, what is the game plan for you and Bullfrog?
Oh boy. Well, we've got the exclusive products. We are keeping the pre-workout around because it's just such high demand, and so many people, even outside of our normal customer base, have ordered that and posted it and want more. And it's just so that's going to be a staple, I think, all year. I think really just growing. Gabby and I have talked about this a few times. I think just growing the stock of what we carry is going to be the number one focus. So I think between the 2 stores, I think 2 is enough for us for a while.
Yeah.
2 is a lot. And what I want to focus on is just making the 2 that we have as perfect as possible. So we still have a lot of growing pains. I think that a lot of people know the analogy that, most small businesses don't really succeed until at least 5 years in.
Right.
And a lot of them fail by then. So with us, a year and a half in, we opened our second one, so it was probably a little ambitious. Looking back at it now, it was ambitious. And Columbus took longer to get off the ground, but the last couple of months, December is the best month we ever had. October, we had Robert Frank here, which was just hilarious. He is a very, very funny guy.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that people with him, people tend to think that the persona that he has on Instagram is who he is, and it kind of actually is. So it's really, really funny when you meet him in person, because you're not let down at all. Some of these people, some people you meet them like celebrity wise, and you're a little bit let down. When you meet Robert Frank, you're not let down at all. He's hilarious. But anyway, we had him out in October, and then December is the best month we ever had. January, we're going to beat December. So Columbus is on a big upswing. We have a very solid, normal customer base now that comes in, every week. And we have a lot of people referring people in here. So the focus will be deepening the shelves with all the brands that we've talked about. So during the course of the podcast, we've probably mentioned 8 to 12 brands.
Yeah.
All 8 to 12 of those brands, the focus will be deepening the stock. I'm sure they'll like to hear that. Having more sit around, more flavors, more variety, whatever they end up coming out with, we will end up having. We have the events March 5th. So March 5th coming up real quick. We have Jay Cutler coming. John Meadows, Guy Cisternino, Chris Gethin will be here. So that's a new brand that we are going to do some work with. Caged. They inform sport, inform choice. I think a lot of retailers get away from brands like that because, everybody kind of knows they're pricey. It's not expensive to buy that. There's not a lot of margin. But we kind of thrive in that kind of situation. So we are going to be doing stuff with them. He'll be at our event. I just got word yesterday that Core will be at the event. Doug Miller will be here. And I can't say too much, I don't think. They're going to do something really big at our event. So in Columbus, March 5th, something real big coming from Core, which will be, I can't wait for that.
Sweet.
6th, 7th, and 8th, obviously the Arnold. You can catch Gabby and I both at the EFX booth. So we will be there. And then, I'm sure we'll have an August party in Toledo with Jay.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll try to get some new people. We'll try to get some new blood in there. But yeah, I think that the number one focus is really just with us, really just understanding that, we need to temper the ambitiousness, and, we have 2 stores and we need to deepen everything with the 2 stores.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, to answer your question in a nutshell, that would be the big thing is, more shelves at each store, more product in each store, focusing on who supports us, which we know those brands that support us, and we want to continue to support them. Whatever they bring out, we'll have. And then just business as usual. I'm sure there'll be some summer trips. I'm sure that Epic Block Party, Nut Bash, all that'll be in the works.
Yeah.
So if you're at those, let me know. I'm sure I'll be at all those. That's been fun. I like those summer trips. You know? I like those kind of yearly, those annual you can look forward to. I think ours is gonna start to be known as August, because that's our anniversary in Toledo. So really every August we've had Jay out. So those trips that you can kind of look forward to from someone in the industry, someone that's a rep, that I really looking forward to those. And we are going to be at the Olympia too this year, Gabby and I, because guys competing, so we want to go out there and I think Jay and I have a workout plan. We'll probably, maybe take some of the Bullfrog exclusive products in the workout.
Cool.
So, there's a lot going on, especially like centered around that big summer and fall gap. But as far as in the stores, business as usual, and just really having everything in stock for every customer that comes in, and focusing on the person that came in for a specific flavor, a specific product that we didn't have, and really just trying to negate all that.
Excellent. Since the supplement industry is it's still growing, we're seeing new brands pop up every week. How do you, as the store owner, keep on top of all of these? Because some customers going to see some new brand advertised on social media or something, and they're going to wonder, can I get it there? So how do you navigate keeping quality brands in the store and keeping those relationships solid and firm, while also keeping an eye towards what new brands may be popping up or getting requested by consumers?
That's a very, very good question. It's something that I don't give a lot of thought to it from a day-to-day, week-to-week basis until it's brought up, and then I think about it. But I really don't go out seeking new brands often at all.
Yeah.
I really just they really just come organically to us if it's something new. And I think maybe that could be a small focal point in 2020 is to get a new brand or 2 in the store just to change the way things look. Because I think that you can have a message of quality, you can have a message of, we only like to carry brands that we know what's in the product. But to the average consumer, they respect that, and they appreciate that, and they want to support you for that. But I think having the same things in the same place all the time probably gets old if you're going to put yourself in the consumer's shoes. So maybe just a little bit of a shift on that, maybe a few extra ones. But as far as us, I think, again, I think we're a little of an anomaly when it comes to this topic in the industry, because I think a lot of people seek that out. I think a lot of stores actually go looking for what are my customers going to want? What are they going to come in for? What's popular now? To me personally, I just think that there's more important things to focus on. I think that focusing on the personal experience that every person comes through the door is getting, focusing on your marketing and your advertising, and are you really educating? Are you putting out education, or are you just following the trends? Because I think if you're just following the trends, you're very vulnerable at that point. I think it leaves your business as a whole very, very vulnerable to the industry, which I don't think is a good way to do things. I wouldn't want to do things that way. I know there's people that succeed doing it that way. Personally, I wouldn't want vulnerability like that being tied so closely with the industry and the trends and things like that, because I think that if you play that game, before you know it, a lot of these smaller brands that you end up supporting because they're trendy are on Amazon, or they've sold to bodybuilding.com, or they've sold to someone else that has more deeper pockets than you. You know,
Right.
and at the end of the day, that's what they're all looking for. They're all looking these smaller, trendy brands. Some of them are looking for the relationships, and that's what we focus on.
Mm-hmm.
But the vast majority of them are human beings. So they're following the money trail.
Yeah.
You know, they're following. Okay, cool. I picked up this retailer, this retailer, this retailer. Now I have some traction. Who's someone bigger I can go for? And then before you know it, they forget about the other people that were supporting them in the first place.
Right.
So that's when I say vulnerable. I think that's what I have in mind. So you know, really, it's a matter of with us. It's usually a mutual contact with us. You know, so someone, you know, like you and I talked about before, someone that I respect and that I do some, you know, cross promoting with, knows somebody that, hey, I think this would be a good brand for your store.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll talk to them. You know, and a lot of times it's, you know, who's going to kind of mold their support toward what we're doing. You know, so like we talked about earlier, we're trying to make all our marketing education based. We're trying to bring people physically to the store to educate our customers in person. And if a brand comes to bat and says, like Cage, as a prime example, one of their new director of sales I've known for a long time. And he came in here and he talked to me 4 or 5 times in person. You know, basically said, I think these are the products that fit your store. And then he gave me solid reasoning on why. And he got Chris Gatham to come to our event. So that's a no-brainer for me.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so that's where I think that, you know, we're different, is that someone that's looking to be on our shelf, if they're willing to, I guess, kind of mold the way they do things to fit and kind of meet us where we do our educating and we do our events, then, you know, and they fit all the manufacturing quality that we like, then that's what we'll look for to bring in.
Excellent. And last but not least, I've been wondering when to ask you this question, but you've mentioned your girlfriend and business partner Gabby several times on the show, and there's this clip of her crawling around you like a spider monkey. What in the world was that? It was hilarious.
So I guess it's a trending thing. I didn't know what it was until she told me. It's called the Koala Challenge.
Okay.
And I think we cheated. So like I posted it, and before I knew it, like my inbox, I had messages and people were commenting like, "You're not supposed to help." So I guess a good example, if you want to see, I guess, the correct and more challenging way to do it would be looking at Half Thor's Instagram. So he posted basically just standing, you know, straight out like this.
Yeah.
And like in a you know, very solid base with your legs, almost like a you know, wide squat kind of is what he's in. And she just literally climbs all over him and up and down him and stuff like that. And then that's where you finish, is, you know, right in front. So we're going to have to redo it. We might need some training for that, because it was difficult the way we did it, but it would be even more difficult. More difficult on her, I think. I think it might be easier on me to just stand there, because I had helped her a lot, but it was fun either way. She likes to do stuff like that because you know, she wants to be. She's trying to get the Bullfrog TikTok moving. So that new social media platform that everyone's on. I guess that's a trendy TikTok thing.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah.
That's where that came from.
Something my wife's a high school teacher, and she's always saying kids were passing around TikTok videos. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell a TikTok is. So I'm guessing that's the next wave of social media.
It's so funny. We went to, so John and I went to, I think it was all the way back it was in August. It was on my birthday. It was August 20th. We went to a Chase corporate business meeting. It was really neat. It was only open to a couple hundred people, but they brought in Gary Vee to speak in front of everyone for basically an entire day. And there was, you know, lunch provided. There were all kinds of really impressive speakers from all different walks of business. And it's so funny because all the way back in August, Gary Vee said, "You guys need to get on TikTok. You need to get on TikTok right now, because it's going to be a massive moneymaker for the businesses that started right now." And if you look back, I think it's on Gary's Instagram and on John's Instagram. John got up in front of everybody and got in kind of a short little line that formed to ask Gary a question.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, what should I post on TikTok? And John's like, I don't know what TikTok is. And it's so funny because you see John's personality come out. You know, you see his personality as, you know, a father that's been in this industry for a long time, that hasn't that's kept up with the Instagram and the YouTube extremely well, but
Yeah.
anything new is kind of like new to him, obviously.
Right.
So you see his personality come out. He says, he puts his hands up. And, what is TikTok and what do I post on it? Gary answers his question. It's really funny if you guys want to reference that. But yeah, I think that's what it's trendy on, and it's Gabby. Gabby likes to do stuff like that. That's what she's really really good at. Is she can play both aspects. She can play the education aspect and write this huge long caption, going into ingredients like she's some kind of doctor. I mean, she can do that, and then she can play the trendy card as well. And I think that's one of her strengths. With marketing for us, is she can really touch every demographic.
Yeah.
And so that was her idea. Honestly, Robert, is one of those things where she's like, "Hey, we're gonna do this," and I'm like, "Okay, cool. Tell me what to do." And you can hear me at the beginning. She might have cut it out. The original video said, I'm standing there and she turns the camera on. I said, "Okay, just tell me what to do. Just literally tell me what to do." And that's what we did. So she's like whispering to me in the video, what to do with her and stuff like that. So something I just went with, and people thought it was funny.
Hilarious, man. Well, awesome, Paul. Thank you. It was a pleasure chatting with you again, man. I look forward to seeing you in about a month's time at the Arnold, at the Bullfrog event. And tell everyone where they can find you and why they should go to Bullfrog as their local supplement store.
Well, everything we talked about, just education, and we do the back end for you. So when you buy a product, especially from a store as a consumer, it's gone through so many levels of degrees of separation before you actually have the product in your hand that I think a lot of people don't think about. So we do the back end for you. If it's on our shelf, it's safe to take, and we know what's in it, and you can ask us any questions you want. You can find us mainly Instagram. That's where we post most of our things. So just at Bullfrog Nutrition, at Bullfrog Nutrition Columbus. I'm trying to get my YouTube back up. It's just Paul Callahan on YouTube. There's a lot of good content on there. So I've got a lot of really good, I've got an interview with Lane Norton. I've got stuff with John, stuff with Jay, some really good stuff. I just haven't stuck with it. I'm trying to get it back up and running though. So if you guys want to check that out, that'd be cool too.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Paul. Man, it's been a pleasure, and have a great day.
Yeah. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate you having me back on.
All right.